Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Alicia Armendariz and I'm really excited for this topic today. I'm going to be talking about living in Colorado Springs versus living in Denver. And I feel like I get this question kind of a lot if you're looking to move here or if you already live in the state and you kind of want to just decide between the two. Maybe I should stay in one city rather than move to the other. Well, I'm going to explain to you from my personal opinion just what it's like living in Colorado Springs and in Denver. And I feel like I have kind of an expertise opinion on this because I actually have lived in both of the cities twice in my life. Once in my 20s, once in my 30s. Moved to both cities for different reasons. I was at different phases in my life. I was at different places with priorities and goals and what have you. So I feel like I have a really good perspective on what it's like living in Colorado Springs and Denver. So if you have any questions over anything that I mentioned in this video, please feel free to reach out to me. Also, if you have any questions about the buying or selling process, feel free to reach out. I do work both cities. I actually work up and down the Front Range, Pueblo, Colorado Springs, Denver, because I've lived in all of those cities and because I still frequent them so much, I feel like I am your Front Range realtor. If you can, please hit that subscribe button and bell so that you guys can get notified when I make new videos each week. So let's get into it, guys. Okay, I could actually make this video a really long video about the differences of living between Colorado Springs and Denver. I'm not gonna say one is better than the other. There are just some differences, and depending on what your lifestyle is and what you're into, hopefully this video helps you decide on where you maybe want to live or move. So just a quick little backstory about me. I am a native of Colorado. I am from Pueblo, Colorado, which is a little Hispanic town just south of Colorado Springs. There's nothing to do in Pueblo as a kid growing up. Now it's actually grown a little bit, but back then when I was a kid, I couldn't wait to get out of Pueblo and go to the big city. After college, I did move to Colorado Springs. I spent the majority of my 20s living in Colorado Springs. Kind of in my mid-20s, I moved to Denver. From there, I moved actually out of state. When I came back, I moved to Colorado Springs. Then in my early 30s, I moved back up to Denver. So I do want to just begin with kind of the main item that is going to reflect a lot in why the two cities are different is just the size. Being from Pueblo, you just kind of look at a map growing up and you're like, oh, this is Colorado Springs, this is Denver. Well, both cities have grown so much, and Colorado Springs is just one county. It is El Paso County. Whether you live on the south end of Colorado Springs, which is maybe like a Fountain neighborhood, or the northern neighborhoods like Monument and Black Forest, you're still part of El Paso County. Denver, on the map to me, used to be like this. And when I got older and I actually lived what I thought was in Denver, people would tell me all the time, oh no, you don't live in Denver. You live in Highlands Ranch. You live in Lone Tree. Well, to me as a kid and from anyone else who's from a small town in Colorado, when you're looking on a map, this is Denver. It's all Denver. But technically, yes, there are 10 different counties within Denver. You have Arapahoe County, Douglas County, Jefferson County. Like I said, there's 10 counties that kind of make up what looks like Denver on a map. And then within that, you have all your suburbs: Aurora, Highlands Ranch, Wheat Ridge, Lakewood, Littleton, Centennial. You guys get the point. It's a lot bigger than Colorado Springs. And on average, most of those counties do have around 600,000 people. Denver Metro has around 700,000 people. So already you're looking at Denver on a map as having 2.5 million to almost 3 million people. Colorado Springs on the map, that one county, we're just over 700,000 people. So right there you can already tell there's just a big difference in the population and also just the size on the map when you are looking at Colorado Springs versus Denver. With that being said, size does affect a lot of things when you're looking to move to a new city. First off, I'm going to mention the traffic. Now, we don't have the traffic like you would find in LA, Houston, Atlanta. We're not that big. But I will say that Denver definitely has more traffic than Colorado Springs. And if you're just a native like me, it doesn't matter if you're in Colorado Springs or Denver, you just don't like the traffic that we've gained here. Again, it's not as bad as those bigger cities, but on average, you can get from the south end of Colorado Springs to the north end in about 40, 45 minutes. and that's even without traffic. With traffic, maybe an hour. In Denver, if you want to get from the south end, kind of like Highlands Ranch, Lone Tree, Parker, up to the north end, some of those neighborhoods like Commerce City and Thornton, that's going to easily take you an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours, 2.5 hours with traffic. It's definitely a big difference. You're going to be sitting in Denver rush hour 5 days a week. Colorado Springs, we kind of more so get rush hour, a heavy rush hour on like that Thursday and Friday. So a lot of times the next most thing that I get asked is, what is there to do? Well, it's Colorado. We got a lot of things to do. Majority of them are outdoors. So it doesn't really matter if you're living in Denver or Colorado Springs, you're gonna have a lot of outdoorsy things to do. But if being outdoors is not your thing, we definitely have a lot of artsy things and music and things that cater to kids. Overall, I will say there's not a better or worse city to find things, but you probably will find more things that are outdoorsy if you're living in Colorado Springs, and you're gonna find more kind of events or restaurants or just get-togethers that are kind of inside if you're living in Denver and surrounding areas. I say that because Colorado Springs actually sits at the base of Pikes Peak, and that's one of our 14ers here in the state. You can easily get to the base of Pikes Peak or trails in the area within 10 minutes, 10 to 20 minutes, even if you're on the far east side of Colorado Springs. Even if you live on the west side of Denver, one of the western neighborhoods and subdivisions, you're still not in the mountains yet. You're close to Morrison, which is very rocky and mountainish, but you're not in the mountains. You still got to take Highway 285 or I-70 into the mountains, and that could be another 30 minutes from the western side. If you're all the way on the eastern side in Aurora or Stapleton, getting across Denver is going to take you an hour, hour and a half. So getting to a mountain, an actual mountain here, a lot quicker if you're living in Colorado Springs. Now, if you are a sports fan, Colorado loves their sports. And pretty much the only difference is that Denver has all the pro teams. Colorado Springs has a lot of semi-pro teams, and then the U.S. Olympic Committee has their headquarters here. So you're going to see a lot of Olympic athletes just kind of training around town. And then also we have big parades every 4 years when the Olympic years start. So that's kind of the difference with the sports. I will say that though, when you live in Colorado Springs, since a lot of people do want to go to the pro events, it's not uncommon for, people to jump in their car and drive to Denver, which is about an hour and 20 minutes to downtown where most of the venues are. That's not uncommon. I really don't ever hear about people from Denver driving down to Colorado Springs. Even when I lived in Denver, I still never came down to Colorado Springs except to see close friends that I had already made from the past. Otherwise, I just didn't. So I don't know if this would really sit high on your want to know list, but it is something you should know. Colorado as a whole used to be pretty lenient with a lot of things politically, ideas, what have you. But Colorado Springs has always been a little bit more conservative. Most likely because we have 5 military installments here, and also because we house Focus of the Family. Focus of the Family is a Christian group. They are nationwide, but their headquarters is here in Colorado Springs. I really don't see them around much, but I do know that they have a big influence on political agendas and things here in town. Also with those 5 military bases, also a big influence. I will say when it comes to politics, Denver, because it is bigger, they usually just implement policy before Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs kind of seems to sit back and wait and see how things are going in Denver and those other counties before we actually implement something. So politics is not real huge and not stuffed in your face, but I will say I do enjoy personally living in Colorado Springs a little bit more. So nightlife and dating and kind of just a personal life, this is totally, again, my opinion and my experience, but I found that Colorado Springs, since it is smaller, kind of has a feel like everybody knows everybody. Not like my town of Pueblo that I'm from, where literally everybody knows everybody, but Colorado Springs is smaller than Denver, and therefore you can know quite a few people. If you are out and about and you like to socialize, you can definitely meet a lot of people. In Denver, I felt like when I lived there, people stuck to their suburbs, or their, what's now almost turning into towns. It used to be suburbs. Because it's so spread out, people don't want to go to a bar or a restaurant that's going to be 50 minutes away. You're not going to go from Highlands Ranch to Commerce City to go golfing. You might if you're an avid golfer, but for the most part, you're not going to drive that far when there's a ton of golf courses or restaurants or bars or zoos or just things to do near you. It's just too far. It's too much traffic. So I found that making friends or going to events really only worked in my experience if I went to something local. Because if I just went to something that was across town and hit it off with people and they're like, yeah, like, we'll invite you next time we go out to this or next time we do that, and I told them where I lived, they really didn't invite me. Because they're like, oh, well, you have to drive far. Or, oh, we didn't invite you because we didn't think you'd make the drive. Or if I invited them to something in my area, it was just like, no, you're too far. Thank you. I just got that a lot. So I found it was easier to kind of make friends if I only went to events in my area, which was a good thing though, because like I said, Denver does offer a lot of things to do. So that kind of flows over into the dating. I will say that when I was living in Colorado Springs in my 20s and I was more like on the dating apps and just dating in general, it was okay if someone lived across town, because getting across town only took 20, maybe 40 minutes if they lived like from Black Forest and I was in Cheyenne Mountain, two total opposite ends of Colorado Springs. But with that being said, like, it wasn't a big deal. You were still in Colorado Springs. I found that when I was in Denver, Lone Tree, and I was trying to date and be on dating apps, and people would, ask me where I'm located. If I wasn't within Lone Tree or Highlands Ranch, which is a neighboring subdivision, they were like, nope, it was so nice meeting you. We really hit it off, maybe another lifetime. And I was like, really? I don't mind driving. That's me personally. I don't mind driving 40 minutes to you. And it was just a no. It was just a no for guys and girls. People didn't want to put in the effort to drive to get across town to meet someone or date someone. Same with the friend thing. So I found like that was just really limiting, because the whole reason, in my opinion, for dating apps are to meet people that you're not going to meet usually. And everyone just in Denver and surrounding areas was very like, nope, I only stick to a small radius and you got to be in my radius for me to give you a chance. So since this is a real estate channel, I'm obviously going to talk about home prices. And I will say, even with all the growth that we've had in the last 5 years here to Colorado as a whole, it's always kind of maintained that Denver stayed about $100,000 more than Colorado Springs. And I'm talking if you took the exact same home that you could find in Denver and surrounding areas, number of beds, baths, square footage, and you took that same home and you looked for it in Colorado Springs, you could probably find it for about $100,000 less. Both Colorado Springs and Denver both have their kind of lower income neighborhoods, but then they also have their luxury neighborhoods. Colorado, I feel like, is a very family-oriented place. Even includes your dog. Everyone's got a dog. A lot of restaurants and places and parades are dog-friendly, so that's just something to note. Families are very welcoming here. People overall are very nice. Between the two, even if you are going to be in Denver surrounding areas or Colorado Springs, both offer at least 2 really, really good school districts. I don't really feel like either area has bad districts per se. In Colorado Springs, you'll find that District 12 and District 20 are probably the most chosen by parents here. And then if you're going to be in Denver and surrounding areas, that Cherry Creek, I think it's District 5, Cherry Creek District 5, and then Douglas County, even Jefferson County, really, really good school districts. And the last thing that I'm going to mention is going to be the weather. Everyone is always so curious about Colorado weather in general, and then, is the weather different between Colorado Springs and Pueblo? If you Google it and you look online, you're just going to get all these stats about, well, Denver gets X amount of inches of snow and Colorado Springs get X amount of inches. They're the same. They're literally almost the same. If a storm is coming in, whether it be rain or snow, whether it hits Denver first, it's probably going to make its way south, and Colorado Springs will get hit with it later that evening or the following day, and then vice versa. If Colorado Springs is experiencing a rain or snowstorm, it's most likely going to move its way north and then hit Denver and surrounding areas. We don't get a lot of snow on the Front Range. In general, the mountain and ski towns, yes, they get dumped on. But that's what they're there for those skiing time. We don't get snow or winters like the Midwest and Chicago and what have you. Our snow melts relatively quickly within a day, 2 days. We're so close to the sun, we're just so high up in the elevation that, yeah, our snow goes quick. But on average, Colorado Springs experience what Denver experiences. If it's a nice day, it's probably a nice day up and down the Front Range, like I said. And if a storm does come in, maybe it might blow over one of the other cities, but it's going to come right back the next day. Snow, it's the same. I know online it says there's a particular amount that each town gets, but honestly, the most that you're going to probably experience heavy snow, and it's going to be inconvenience, is on Monument Hill. And Monument Hill is on the interstate here, I-25, and I-25 goes directly between Colorado Springs and Denver, and Monument Hill is at a higher elevation than both of them, right in the middle on the interstate. So if you are commuting back and forth for concerts, work, shopping, whatever, and it is forecasted to snow, you better believe Monument Hill, this like 5-mile area, is going to get dumped on. The traffic's going to slow down, you're going to have poor vision, it's going to be hectic. So just be aware that if it is slightly snowing in Denver, it's probably slightly snowing in Colorado Springs, but I guarantee it's dumping on Monument Hill during that little 5-mile section where you just got to get over the hump to get to the other city. All right, you guys, well, that was just the surface of some of the differences between living in Colorado Springs and Denver. I honestly made this video yesterday, and it was like a 50-minute video, and I know you guys don't want to watch that long, but if you are more curious and you have particular questions about differences or similarities between living in Colorado Springs and living in Denver, then definitely feel free to reach out. Hit me up on that phone number, email, text, comments, whatever you feel comfortable with. I would love to help you answer those questions and, again, help you with those real estate needs. So hit that subscribe button and bell also, and I will see you guys next time.